Hello everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Gaming in the Wild, a video games podcast about games from the artistic, creative side of the tracks, from indie to AAA. My name's John, I'm your host. It's a sunny spring day in Reykjavik. Doesn't mean it's warm, it's freezing outside, but things are good, and I've got some very exciting games to talk about with you today. The featured game of the episode is going to be a game that I think is maybe uncharacteristic for this show and for my taste. It's a game that I played a demo of, fell in love with very quickly and became quite fiercely addicted to, and have been playing quite a lot since then over the last couple of weeks. It has a beautiful symphonic soundtrack that we're listening to right now, and it is the giant creature hunting game from Koei Tecmo, Wild Hearts. I think there's been a lot of talk about this one online. It's been quite interesting seeing the discourse unfold about it. It has its fair share of problems, but it is a wonderful game. I've had a really good time with this one. I waited a little bit to review it because it's quite a big game, but I am quite far through it now, and so I thought it's time to talk about it. So Wild Hearts will be the featured review today. But before we get to that, let's have a little talk about some of the other stuff that has been going on in the world of games. There have been a couple of really good demos come out recently. We seem to be awash with demos lately, which I'm all in favour of. It takes me right back to the old days of getting cover discs on Amiga magazines in the 90s. Now, of course, we just grab them from a digital store, so it's no hassle to try them out at all. The first demo that I played was for Sea of Stars. This is a pixel art, top-down Zelda-like that a lot of people are excited about, I think mostly because of the visuals. And I played the full demo for that. It was a couple of hours long. It included the starting area, and then it skipped to a hub area, like a city, a sailing town, and then you get to do one puzzle area of the game too. And I had a good time with the demo. I will say that it was a bit of a disjointed demo in that it skipped a lot. So you come down a mountain at the very start of the game, and then you time skip forward and miss, as the game tells you, a whole bunch of adventures. And then you end up in this pirate town, so it feels like the rhythm was a bit off for this one. But then you get to go into a sort of alternate world and fight a giant boss, and you get to level up a little bit, use the campfire, see the mechanics, upgrade a little bit of equipment, and so forth. And for what it is, for the type of game that it is, I think Sea of Stars was a good time. It didn't blow me away in any respect. All of the mechanics are very familiar, very familiar. Really generic, you could say, for this type of game. But it is a polished and nice-looking version of the top-down pixel art game. But I've played so many of these in my life that it really does take a little something to make me stick with one. One that I played recently and really enjoyed, and I think is quite underrated actually, is a cyberpunk version called Jack Move. And the interesting one in that is that it has these little rhythm elements in the fights, where a jack move is like a special move where you build up a meter, like a limit break. Then you have to pull off a series of button presses in a turn-based battle system to get your special moves to work, and then they look really cool when they happen. There wasn't really anything quite like that in Sea of Stars. So maybe there is as the game unfolds. Maybe mechanics open up a little. And it was a good time. I'm not saying it was bad or anything. It just it didn't really grab me mechanically. Although I can see why everyone is very excited about the visual style. The pixel art is lovely and detailed, and the colour palette is really nice too. The next demo that I played was for a game that I've previewed previously called Dredge. This is the kind of mini open world fishing game where you pull up at a port in your little low poly boat. You get menus, so you can upgrade your ship, you can sell your catch, you can sleep, you can research and upgrade your boat, and then you get to go out into the open water, controlling the camera with the right stick and moving around with the left. You see bubbles on the sea where you can fish. The shadows of the fish will tell you what kind of fish are there. Sometimes you have to trawl to catch them. Sometimes you need different kinds of equipment, strong lines, a winch that can grab ocean monsters from deep down. And you also get a dredger, which allows you to go to mysterious spots because there is something strange going on in the little archipelago where Dredge is set. You can dredge up secrets from the ocean floor. And as you continue to fish, especially at night, you notice that things get very strange. You start pulling out three-eyed fish and strange fish with human teeth and all kinds of mutated fish. And there are things moving around under the water. Let's just put it that way. And it's a generous demo. You get to play several hours of the game. And it has a really, really tight and intriguing loop to it. I couldn't wait to take back my catch. You have to organize your inventory. It's a little bit like the Resident Evil 4 system with some squares. Fish are different shapes, like a right angle or a square of 4 blocks. Like a shark will be a very strange shape with a tail and the fin sticking out, so it's hard to fit into your inventory, but it's worth more. As you progress, you get to upgrade the hold to hold more stuff. You get more allocated spots for equipment, for a better engine, for better nets, and you can move faster and get special abilities and so forth. I got really, really addicted to it. It's great to go out and fish, explore, see how much you can do before night falls and you have to get back. Or if you are too far out, you have to try and survive the night. And there are all kinds of things that will stop you from doing so. So if you are interested in Dredge, I definitely say play the demo. I did get a full review copy of this, so I have gone further than the limits of the demo now. It's under embargo until the 23rd, and I will be publishing a full review of that game. But I can say with confidence that Dredge is a wonderful game, so look forward to that one. I also added 2 new codes to the review list. I got a code for Storyteller, the very interesting game where you get to puzzle in elements into a storybook, like a prince, princess, dragon, demon, vampire, sun. They're all little sort of paper crafty things that you can drag into a cartoon strip style structure in a storybook and rearrange to tell either the traditional stories or strange versions of them just to see what happens. I'm very interested in this one. It's been in development for a while. It looks lovely, and it's just a mechanic that I haven't seen before, which is always a little bit exciting. It hasn't gone live in the eShop yet, so I'm just waiting for that to go live before I can cash in my code, but I'll be talking about Storyteller for sure. I also got a review code for The Forest Cathedral. This is a really interesting looking game where you walk around a beautiful forest and you find puzzle panels, a little bit like The Witness. But when you come to those puzzle panels, you see it's like a little platforming game. So if you've seen the game The Pedestrian, where you're platforming through utility signs and directional signs and information boards in a cityscape, The Forest Cathedral is a little bit of a twist on that. So it's a little like The Witness, it's a little bit like The Pedestrian, and there are also in the latest trailer some interesting looking things that don't belong either in the 3D world or the sign world of this game. There are pixel art dialogue sequences going on that look like they're from another game entirely. So I'm getting a little bit of a Stanley Parable vibe from this one too. I think it's going to play with what you expect the game to be in an interesting way, and it looks like it has interesting and varied gameplay too. All of the visuals are tight. I like the premise. It's based on ecology. And so The Forest Cathedral is a really interesting looking one. I've got a code for that. I'm waiting for that to go live in the store before I can cash it in and start playing. I also bought one game on sale on the Switch. This is a strange looking little visual novel that I've heard people talking about here and there, but I don't really fully know what it is. It's called Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. If you have heard that name, I'm sure you will remember it. It's very distinctive. So I picked that up for £5 on the Switch. A remastered version came out on Switch, and having heard some chatter about it, I've added that to the long list as well. And the final thing that I've been playing before we get on to Wild Hearts, I actually upgraded my setup a little this week again. I've been using this tiny little portable Bose Bluetooth speaker for my monitor where my Xbox is set up. My PS5 is over by the TV, and there's a soundbar there, so PS5 games always sound massive. My Xbox setup has had not good sound, or at least not as full. And so I bought a pair of speakers. I bought a pair of Mackie, let me look at the box here, CR3 XBT monitors. They are on the cheap side of what studio-style monitors cost, but they are very, very cool. They're very, very solid. They have a really nice deep bass, and they have really crisp mid and treble too. They also have Bluetooth, so you can use them for listening to music. So they're a really good little pair of speakers. I'm very happy with them. And I was thinking, what game shall I test out my new speakers with? And of course, it had to be Hi-Fi Rush, the rhythm game, with a rock soundtrack where you're battling through a colourful cartoon world. I had previously bounced on Hi-Fi Rush. I played half an hour of it or so, and it was all tutorial, and I just got bored and quit out of it. And I wasn't really feeling the very brash, bright, like Saturday morning cartoon look and sound. It has a kind of an FM rock sound to it, and all of the dialogue is really over the top and cartoony, and I guess I wasn't feeling it that day. But with these new speakers, I blasted them up, and I picked up where I left off, which it turned out was right before the first major story boss of the game. And I got really sucked into Hi-Fi Rush. I was grinning from ear to ear, and I went on and played an extra 2 areas. I think I'm 2 hours into it now. So I'm going to be talking about Hi-Fi Rush again in the future. And I'm really happy to have gotten into that one because everyone was so excited and enamored with it when it came out. I felt sad. I felt like I was missing out on the hype to not be feeling it myself. But I'm really into Hi-Fi Rush now. So I think even as soon as I get off recording this podcast, I'm going to play more Hi-Fi Rush and then I'm going to play more Wild Hearts. So I've got a really, really nice list of games going at the minute. It feels like this year has really taken off strong. It's been a really strong start to this year with Season, with Birth, and now with Dredge, The Forest Cathedral, Storyteller, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Stars on the way as well. I'll be talking about all of those games in future episodes, so lots to look forward to. But before I get on to Wild Hearts, let me just briefly mention this is a patron-supported show. Patrons of the show, they support me in upgrading my setup, paying for the web address, paying for games to review, paying for music to use on the show. They also get access to a whole list of bonus episodes, like music radio shows, like travelogues, off-topic things. I publish a few of those a year, and you get access to all 9 existing ones when you sign up. You can do so at patreon.com/gaminginthewild for $1, $3, or $5, euros, or pounds a month. You also get an invite to our Discord community, which is my favourite place on the internet to talk about games. Loads of nice people in there sharing what they're playing, playing Guess the Game, playing Wordle, sharing screenshots, having conversations about all kinds of interesting game-related things. I find out about a lot of good games in there, so please do come and join us. It's patreon.com/gaminginthewild. And with all of that said, let's move on and talk about the featured game of this episode, Wild Hearts. So Wild Hearts is a 2022 game by Omega Force, the makers of the Dynasty Warriors series, a division of Koei Tecmo. It's published by EA Originals. It is out on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. The music is absolutely amazing in this game. It's a full orchestral symphonic score headed up by Junya Ishiguro with a vast team of people who worked on the music. It really is spectacular and it really elevates this game. It's a full-price game, so it's $69.99 where I am, which seems like a lot for this game. I think it perhaps could have been priced down a little given the shape that it released in. I started playing this one on an Xbox Series S. That's where I played the demo. There is a demo available. It's quite long. You get to fight a few different monsters and explore the open world. But when I realized how much I was enjoying this game, I moved to PS5 just to increase the fidelity of the experience. On Series S, it had a few issues. There has been a lot of talk about the shape that this game released in, and I'll get to that in a while. It does have multiplayer, really seamless multiplayer actually, with great cross-play, which is a great feature, so you can play with your friends no matter what console or PC they are on. The reviews have been mixed for this game, but for technical reasons, I think that they are probably about 10 points too low across the board. Metacritic has this game at 76 to 79, which are soft numbers. I really do think that this is a mid-80s game if you take the technical issues that it had at launch aside. How Long to Beat has it at 40 to 50 hours, so it's quite a chunky game. There is a story that you can follow, but there is also a lot of side quests, and there is a lot of repeat hunts that you can do if you just enjoy the hunting gameplay to get monster parts and to upgrade your gear, which is an essential part of the game. And as I was looking around for the developer description of this one, on Steam it says simply, "Master ancient tech to hunt down giant beasts," which is a very, very concise description of what this game is. I love it. But I did look around for a little more information, and I found this description too. No one remembers why the kemono began their rampage through the once prosperous realm of Azuma. Fueled by desperation, they wield the power of primal nature at its most destructive. No one could stand against their overwhelming might until the arrival of a formidable hunter armed with ancient technology called karakuri that could turn the tide of battle. So that fills you in a little bit more about what this game is about. Master ancient tech to hunt down giant beasts is cool though. That's definitely good shorthand for what this game is. And my description of this game is that it's an exciting monster hunting RPG set in a fantasy world where humanity is beset by aggressive, spectacular megafauna. You track down the monsters through open-world biomes, engaging in exciting multi-phase battles brought to life by dynamic, sandboxy building. The thrilling stellar combat is offset by a janky performance and a just-okay story, but it's a compelling and idiosyncratic ride. But before I talk about this game in detail, there is something that I wanted to bring up just as a general point about this genre of game. It is very inspired by Monster Hunter and that series, which I have dabbled with, but I found this game to be much more immediate and the combat to just be much more compelling. But there was a reason that I didn't dive straight in on Monster Hunter as a series, and there is a reason that it took me a while to warm to the idea of playing Wild Hearts. And that is a problem that I have with the monster hunting genre. From an ecological perspective, humanity has basically raised the planet Earth and dominated all of the species of life on this planet, including hunting elephants, hunting whales, hunting giraffes, hunting all kinds of things to the point of extinction, and especially the more exotic animals. We've lost many, many species over time. We're still losing them. There are lots of endangered species around the world. And so the idea of hunting in games, and especially what can be construed as trophy hunting, has always sat really badly with me. Like, I'm just flat out against trophy hunting, and I'm flat out against hunting down beautiful, large animals. You know, humanity is far past the point where these animals threaten us, and so I've never wanted to do it in games. You know, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But I did feel intrigued by the art style of Wild Hearts. These monsters are ferocious. They have been overtaken by nature. There are branches growing out of their bodies. They are crazed, and they're quite wild to look at. And I just wanted to see more of them. And I will say that as I played this game, I did realize that the monsters in this game are spectacular, and they are a huge threat to the medieval samurai society that live in the world of Azuma. And so it doesn't feel like trophy hunting, which is what I was worried about, you know, like slashing tails off giant beasts to go and use them as resources like in Monster Hunter. They do feel like a present threat to humanity, and humanity is almost defending itself. These monsters have destroyed much of human society outside of very heavily defended encampments where humanity lives. And so my fears about not liking the monster hunting genre were assuaged by playing it a little and realizing that these monsters are threatening, they are dominating humanity. And so even if it still sits a little strangely with me to be hunting gorgeous, giant, exotic and rare-seeming megafauna within the dynamics and the story of this game, it does make sense, and it's not entirely as unwholesome as I feared that it might be. In fact, every time I did pick up a controller to play Wild Hearts, I seemed to just fall into an hours-long trance and snap out of it after a really long play session to find out that, you know, if I had tea, it had long gone cold and been completely untouched, or if I'd had a beer or a soda, it had just gone warm and I hadn't had a single sip, because the game just had absorbed me to a really high and unusual degree. It really took all of my attention and it really sucked me in. It's so detailed, so lovely, so enjoyable, so exciting. There's clearly something good going on here. But anyway, what is Wild Hearts? So the world in Wild Hearts is called Azuma. It is a high fantasy world, but with a samurai influence, a feudal Japan-inspired culture exists in the world of Azuma. They used to be widespread, and there used to be villages all around the world in the forests and the mountains and so forth. But the kemono have arrived, and they've always been there, but they have been far away from humanity, and they've been exotic and not often sighted. But something has driven the kemono kind of crazy. They are encroaching on human territory. They are attacking villages. They are killing traveling parties. And so humanity is really penned into just a few towns and cities. And even some of those cities aren't doing so great, as you will find out as you go through the game. But you arrive as a hunter who has come from far away. You have a special ability that has not been common for a long time, that's fallen into disuse. It is the ability to use thread. Thread here is like an earth energy resource, a little bit like Mako from Final Fantasy VII. It comes from the earth, and it can be spun into things called karakuri. These are ancient gizmos that you magically bring to life out of thin air. It feels like magic, but it's described as ancient technology. And the karakuri, they are useful for both traversal and battle. So this is the real sandboxy special appeal of Wild Hearts by comparison to games like Monster Hunter, and also by comparison just to other open world games. Like if you come to a cliffside in this game, you have an endurance meter, you can't climb so high, but you can build a tower of karakuri. You just put your hand out and you can magically make 3 boxes appear in a stack right in front of you. You can climb up those without spending endurance, and when you get to the top, you can bounce really high and get to the top of that cliff that has been in your way. There are all kinds of karakuri, and they are very interesting. The thing that I love most about them, I think, is that as you press R1, that is the karakuri button, a little menu pops up, and then you hit one of the face buttons on the controller. You can choose which karakuri you want to have on this quick use menu. And as soon as you hit the button, they appear and they construct right in front of you in a fraction of a second. And so it's very, very, very dynamic. Like if you are running, chasing a beast, for example, and it's getting away, you can create a spring that will materialize beneath your feet as you are running and propel you forwards. If there is a gap in front of you and a creature bounds over it like a chasm with a broken bridge, you can jump, create a karakuri in mid-air that will be like a little copter that will carry you over that gap. So it's amazingly fast and fluid. I think building in games is often thought of as a little bit slower than this, a little bit more clunky than this. But in Wild Hearts, it's incredibly dynamic. It's incredibly fast to do. The things that you build appear almost as soon as you press the button. And so it can change the tide of battle. It makes traversal just a joy. So it's a really fun thing that this game brings to the table that I haven't seen before. And the game starts when you find someone at a campfire who has passed out. You bring them back. You wake them up. They tell you that their brother has been spirited away or gotten into trouble or been penned in by a kemono, and she begs for your help. So off you go on your first hunt. You head down a lovely wooded pathway downhill into a seaside valley. It's a very nice art style in this game for all of the technical problems that I will get onto. The world looks beautiful, even if there are popping textures and popping level of detail and all of that kind of stuff and strange shadows. It's still nice to look at, which says an awful lot for the art design. But as you go down that wooded pathway, you get to an open valley, and there you lay your eyes on a kemono. The first one that you meet is this rodenty, squirrely, ratty kind of giant with flowers bursting out of its face, pink flowers growing out of it, a little bit like The Last of Us. It's been infected by nature somehow. It has a very dramatic tail with a big ball on the end of it. And this thing is fierce. It will charge at you. It will do all kinds of moves. It can leap to the sides. It's very mobile and agile. It has different attacks, area of attacks, aerial attacks. And you quickly realize that you have to use the karakuri to win. If you build a stack of 3 boxes, the monster will destroy it if it runs near them. But if you climb onto the top and time it just right, you can jump off the top and arc through the air, pulling your sword way behind your back, and then arcing down onto the kemono for massive damage. And so the karakuri becomes instantly incredibly useful and essential in battle. So you're building quite fluidly as you are avoiding, you're dodging, you're running away, you're healing. Sometimes you're hiding behind rocky outcroppings, and sometimes the kemono will just come barreling through them. Trees fall, cliffs fall. These fights are absolutely epic and just a joy right from the start. And there are lots of small decisions that have been taken in the combat design that make it as good as it is. You have thread, and you can only use, I think at the beginning, you only have a handful of thread. Every time you make something, your thread goes down by 1. But it's a resource that you can find in the battlefield. If you use the L2 button, you can scan the area. Things glow green that are harvestable. There might be boulders, there might be trees. So if you can get away from the creature long enough, you can mine more thread and go back in for another attack run. So movement becomes very important. And I'm on the record as being very much in favour of fun, fluid traversal in open world games and in games generally. And the movement in this game is just sublime. You have a massive slide that you can do, especially if you're going downhill, you'll be very, very fast. And it will get you out of trouble very quickly. It uses your endurance. You have a jump. You have a dodge roll. You can lock on to kemono and lock off very easily by knocking in the right stick, which is super helpful. If kemono run away, because a lot of these battles are multi-phase, you can hold down that scan button and you can see a trail showing you which way it went. So you can go running through the environment, restocking all of your healing abilities. You have a potion that you can use a couple times and you can upgrade that as time goes on. You can get more thread, you can get all of this harvesting materials that are scattered throughout the world, all as you are chasing a giant creature with this huge music going on. It's just such an exciting style of play. I absolutely loved it. And as you are chasing kemono throughout Azumi, throughout the different biomes that make up this country, you are discovering as well. You will often find a kemono at the start of a biome, and then you will then fight it, and it will run throughout the biome, and you're running and noticing these interesting places as you chase it that you can then come back to and explore in more detail, because there are lots of things to find. The battles just really do feel like a chase. They feel like a hunt. Often it feels like you're hanging on for dear life. They're very, very exciting. And I took to it like a duck to water. It's intuitive, it's fast. Impacts feel huge. The monster attack patterns are amazing, and they are quite interesting AI-wise. Like, they do feel alive at times. They can be a little video gamey, but the move sets that they have are really well designed, like the little shimmies that they have, the evasions that they have. It does sometimes feel like they're darting around you looking for an opening, or like getting away from you to look at you and then charge you. I mean, you can see that charge coming, and then even mid-charge, there are different behaviors that they can do. You can stun them, you can knock them down, you can aim for specific parts of them. As you damage them, parts of the beast will fly off and green patches will appear on the beast. If you can then jump and catch it, a little bit like Shadow of the Colossus, you can climb them and then pull thread from within the beast to overcharge your thread to give you more Karakuri creation resources. The whole thing is just really, really exciting, really, really wonderful. I love that. I love that climbing onto them. I love the hunter's arm ability, where because you will run out of thread mid-battle and not be able to create any more Karakuri, and that's a problem. You need to renew that resource. And so being able to pull it from monsters as you damage them is a really, really smart decision. I feel like many, many, many good decisions have been taken when it comes to the gameplay, when it comes to the combat, when it comes to the traversal, and when it comes to the world design, actually. I really enjoy the design of all the biomes in Azumi. I should also say that you get lives in these fights, so if you are taken down, you will regenerate at the nearest camp. Sometimes that camp can be a little far away, but if you have designed the traversal across the areas, your Karakuri will stay in place. So if you've made like a vine that you can zip line across, if you've put down springs, like a course of springs, you can follow your old chase course that you chased the monster through the first time and get back there pretty quickly. When you actually do defeat a monster, it will fall down with a very dramatic sound. You then hold down L2 for the final blow. You kill that kemono, you get all of those materials, and your character will bow deeply and slowly to the monster that you've just taken down. And after you've defeated that first squirrel monster, you will be faced down by a boar monster. All of this is available in the demo, by the way. And after you've beaten those first two monsters and had a good run around and a good chunk of gameplay to get into it, you will find where the demo ends. This is where I bought the game immediately because I just did not want to stop. You reach the hub town of Minato. And I love a good hub town. This one is a bit of an odd one. Like many things in Wild Hearts, it's a little bit odd, it's a little bit janky, it's a little bit strange. But in the hub town, you can shop, you can sell the resources that you have collected, you can upgrade your weapons, you can buy new armor. There are quest givers here. Some of the quests are side quests about rescuing people or getting a certain type of monster part in order to build something in the city. Sometimes the leader of the village will ask you for things that are story quests. Sometimes you will meet guildsmen who will give you small tasks that are just about carrying out simple things like killing a certain amount of kemono with a certain weapon, or collecting a certain amount of wildlife or ancient lumber, or all of the resources that you find in the game. It's not exactly a bustling hub. It's nowhere near as... I think that Horizon Forbidden West really set the new benchmark for what encampments can look like in this kind of world, with all kinds of people, with children and lessons, with everyone that you can talk to has a line of dialogue for you. The settlements feel alive. This one does not. It's more like Skyrim-y, you could say. There's just a handful of people usually standing in the same place, and you can go and talk to them every time you come back here. So it's a little bit jank, it's a little bit old feeling. It is quite beautiful though. There are giant windmills, there is a harbour. It's all lots of really interesting little wooden buildings. You can use your karakuri here to design shortcuts. So mine is covered in flying vines. So every time I go back to Minato, I can zip line between all of the most interesting spots that I go to a lot. You can also build food drying racks where you can hang wheat and you can hang vegetables that you found in the open world. You can also harvest meat by hunting down smaller animals, and you can collect fish by using a special karakuri that will shovel them out of the water. And if you process food, the food will become more potent. If you eat food before battle, it will extend your health bar, increase your damage and resilience, and so forth. It's an essential tool. So the hub becomes very useful for all of this stuff. This is where I will usually look at my skill tree, for example. You get points that you can spend to open up new karakuri or to add power to your favorite karakuri. So when I come back to Minato, I will usually end up with a new piece of armor, perhaps a new weapon ability, loads of food that I have set to pickle or dry. You have a house here that you can sleep in, or you can use the campfire to plan your next hunt. It's a really good little hub area. And this is also where you'll find out if there are jobs that you need to do in the existing biome that you've just been in, such as the Harugasami Way, where you first start, which is full of bamboo forests, mountains, cherry blossom groves, caves and ruined villages and that sort of thing. Before long, if you carry out a few jobs for the leader of the village, she will invite you to go to the Natsudodachi Isle, which is a giant coral island. It's a really fantastic new biome with wrecked ships and huge sea anemones. It's absolutely beautiful. Very bright, eye-burstingly bright colour palette. Later on, you'll get to go to the Akakure Canyon, a snowy area, and I won't spoil them, but each new biome has new kemono to fight, new species of kemono, new creatures roaming around, new resources to gather. So they feel very fresh. There's lots to do in each one. They look very, very different too. So it really does feel like you have arrived in a different part of the world. And I will also say that the exploration in this game is really, really fun. As you are moving around, the karakuri is so cool in this respect. Like, in Death Stranding, when you get access to new equipment that really just changes the way you traverse the world, and it stays in place. So if you have crossed a mountain using ladders and ropes and all kinds of other stuff. It will be there the next time you come back, and you will see it. And it's the same in this game. If you use a zip line to take a shortcut up to a high mountain top where a kemono is, then that zipline will be there the next time you go back. So you can see that you've left a mark on this world, and you can create these quite intricate traversal pathways that you can reuse over and over. And I really enjoyed that part of the game. There are also little collectible droids, the little round Star Wars looking balls called Sukomo. And at first you find one and it just accompanies you, but you find them all around the place. They are like the Koroks of this game, but they're more impactful gameplay-wise. As you collect more of them and more of them, you can upgrade them at your camp, and they can do things in battle, like they can aggro a monster away from you, which can be life-saving. They can disperse a healing mist that you can stand in, so you don't have to use a potion and slow down by drinking a potion in battle. That can be really useful. And their placement is wonderful. Like if I'm coming up a mountain and I see that there is a ledge with a single tree, I know that there might well be a Sukomo hidden round behind that tree. So it gives you a great excuse to explore every corner of this world. You can almost smell it when there is a Sukomo around to find, which I think speaks to really solid level design, that their placement starts to feel like second nature, and it is exciting every time you find one. But I think it is time, now that I've sung the game's praises for quite a while, to talk a little bit about the discourse around this game, about the jankiness of the game and the poor performance of the game. This game does not run well. On Xbox Series X, it was very, very low res. It was blurry on my 1440p screen. I think it was running at 1080 and dropping below that sometimes. And the lighting system just didn't work. It had just been turned off for the Series X, which I guess is one way to do it. You know, people talk about struggling to optimize for Series X. Switching off the entire lighting system, including shadows and so forth, is one way to do it, I guess. I mean, the game does run on the S. It just looks like ass. The PC version sounds really troubled, lots of glitching in that version. Even on PS5, you can choose between fidelity mode at 4K 30, not stable, or a performance mode, which is supposed to be 60 frames at 1080. The resolution is fine and stable, but the frame rate is not. Even in performance mode, there are glitches, frame drops, pop, texture pop, missing shadows, all kinds of strange visual glitching all the way through the game. I picked performance mode. It's very replayable on PlayStation 5. It never impacted gameplay for me, really, but there were frame drops and visual bugs throughout. It turns out that this game is made in a new proprietary engine called the Katana engine. And if you watched the Double Fine Adventure documentary in which they were making the game Broken Age, you will have seen what it can mean for a game's development if the engine is being developed at the same time as the game. And that was for a 2D game. For a full 3D open world game on a brand new engine that is being built, it's a little bit like building the track in front of the train. And it does seem to have impacted Wild Hearts considerably. You do wonder why people do that. You do wonder why they didn't just use Unreal. What was it about Unreal that wouldn't work for them? Or what was it about any of the other existing engines that wouldn't have worked for them? But I'm sure they had their reasons. They built the Katana engine. But it does feel like that might be the culprit for the performance issues across all of the platforms. And it does hitch a lot. Like, you will see visible hitches in the game really, really regularly, especially in busy areas. I mean, the capital city, the hub city, it's one of the areas that you visit most in the game. And it is one of the ones where there are not giant monsters running around. And so you would think that if there was a place in the game that was the most stable and manageable, it might be that one. But even in the capital, as you are ziplining around between platforms, it hitches like crazy and stutters like crazy and drops frames all over the place. Really weird light pop. The skybox can behave weirdly. The whole thing is just really, really off. Massive level of detail issues throughout the game. But I think that this really does speak to just how good of a game it is, that even with like disastrous technical performance, I'm just still drawn to this game over and over. Every time I pick it up, I just have an absolute whale of a time. I really can't put it down. So the technical stuff just doesn't stop the fact that this is a good game, and it doesn't stop the game from being really, really fun. It never impacted gameplay for me. There's always a little bit of strangeness in a game where you're fighting a giant enemy. Even in, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, those kind of games, the camera will sometimes move behind the leg of an enemy or pop through the body of an enemy and obscure your view. And that certainly happens here. The camera can get crushed against like a cliff if you're backed in and a monster comes in. You're just seeing a lot of cliff and you're seeing a lot of monster in the camera, and you just kind of have to get out of there as fast as possible. But that's not unique to this game. I think that happens in all games with giant enemies, basically. It's never been solved. Just one more thing as well before we get onto the positives and negatives of this game. It has a very stiff story, you could say. The dialogue is what it is. It's a little bit... I often find that the dialogue and story in specifically in games that come out of Japan, I feel like something might often be lost in translation when it's coming to a Western audience. Like the dramatic sensibility is just not the same. Things seem a little bit more pumped up, a little bit more like an extreme or melodramatic version of events. In Japanese games, the voice acting is often very much in that vein too. The faces of your NPC characters are kind of Bethesda-y, a little bit plasticky. The movement of NPCs is also pretty stiff. In some ways, this feels like... I hesitate to say it, but it is true. It does feel like a last-gen game running on next-gen hardware, and running badly at that. When it comes to character models and stuff, the world has kind of moved on from where Wild Hearts comes down, and the writing doesn't really support it. I often click through dialogue. I don't really care about the characters. There are 10 or 12 characters in the hub area that you will talk to. They all have stories, they all have concerns, they all have backstories. They ask you for companion quests that will open up things in the hub area. But I didn't really care about any of that. I clicked through the dialogue and just wanted to get out there. It didn't put me off either, though. It's fine, it's there, it does the job, but it's definitely not why you're playing this game. Which takes us on to the positives. The first one is the combat, the gameplay. All of the gameplay in this game is excellent. I love the combat. I love these spectacle fights with amazing monster design. They are aggressive. They are grotesque. They are unpredictable. They look absolutely beautiful. They have huge movesets. The combat, the abilities that you have are versatile. You really do feel like you can play your way. I really, really enjoyed the whole spectacular experience of every single fight. And that is the core gameplay here. So they've really nailed that, and that is a big pillar of this. The monsters themselves are just unbelievable looking things. Like, you can't take your eyes off them. They are spectacular to fight. They are beautiful to look at. I love the Last of Us vibe that they have with flowers and vines and trees growing out of them. They have special moves where they will just stamp and things will grow out of the ground around them. Like the rat guy can make this curled tree appear and leap up onto it. The giant boar guy can make huge spikes of rock come out of the ground around them. They really do feel like a force of nature, and it's a vivid vision. I sometimes had to catch my breath mid-battle just because the monsters were so spectacular. The battles themselves, they are tense, they are long. I loved the multi-phase aspect of it. The epic orchestral score just brings these battles to life. It gets your heart pumping every time. The fact that you can climb on them, the fact that you can leave a battle, you don't get penned in. If you run out of healing potions, you can just nope out, go find a well, go find some healing plants, and then come back and run at it again. I like that there are lives in the game, so if you die during a battle, you can come and rejoin the battle again. That's a really good decision there. The movement in the game is just brilliant. Fast running speed, vaulting over things effortlessly. It's probably better than Horizon. I've criticized the climbing and the movement in Horizon a lot. This is what I want. It's in this game. It's more like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was an excellent game to move through. The movement just felt wonderful in that game. It takes the endurance system from Breath of the Wild. It takes the Assassin's Creed Odyssey, just vaulting over small things. So you never jank against something when you're moving. Your character will effortlessly vault over things. It's very generous with grabbing edges and just jumping up onto edges when you're climbing and that sort of stuff. The next good thing is the karakuri. They are just such a brilliant inclusion in this game. The sandboxy building, bringing machines and devices into existence from thin air. Things like a giant hammer that will smash down onto an enemy. Things like a big wall that you can build in under a second, and it just seems to come out of nowhere. You can see the pieces clicking into place, and an oncoming kemono will run headfirst into it and be stunned. The fact that you can do it so quickly is just amazing. Also for traversal, the zip lines, being able to zip line anywhere in the world, anywhere you can see, you can pretty much fire a zip line onto it. You can explore the heights and depths of this world that way. There are fans that you can drop down that will blow your character up and straight line up into the air. So if you need to get up a cliffside, you can do that as well. You just feel very free in this game. And it's all down to the movement and to the karakuri. They are rapidly deployed. They are satisfying to use. They are just really, really useful. You will discover fusion karakuri. This is when your character has like a moment of revelation in a fight where you'll get button prompts on the screen, and in the midst of battle you can hit them and a new karakuri will be discovered and deployed in battle, such as fireworks for taking down a flying enemy and stunning it on the ground. Things that you can use that will help you in that battle, you will discover mid-battle and then be able to use again. The art direction in this game is wonderful. It's a fully realised high fantasy world with all of those samurai touches, the cherry blossoms, the giant coral, forests and caves. Each of the new areas that I've been to is really striking and exciting, and it felt new animals, new structures, new topography. All of the areas are beautifully designed. They have sight lines across areas, so you can see landmarks. The map is good. There are secrets to find, and they are always in intuitive little nooks that take you to every corner of this place. You learn the layout language until it is almost second nature. I should talk about the multiplayer. I haven't done that until now. Here it is in the good column in my notes. You can invite people to come with you if you're having trouble. If you've died on a hunt, lost all your lives, the next time you go, when you select that animal to go and fight it again, you can invite people to your session. They may or may not turn up, but if they do, you will get multiple players just appearing and helping you in battle. You can turn off voice chat, which I definitely did, of course. There are in-game emotes and that sort of thing. You can also join other people's sessions if you want to fight and help someone else out. You can choose to join someone else's session. You can join mid-battle and turn up and save the day. Feels good to turn up when someone's really struggling and to aggro the beast away from them and to help them take it down. So loads to love in this game. There is quite a lot of bad stuff too. It's laden with jank in a way that feels just bizarre and almost charming. Like it's just idiosyncratic. This is an idiosyncratic game. I think that the menu system for upgrades is a little scattered. I never felt like it was, what's the word I'm looking for, sort of united, unified. It didn't feel unified. Like if you want to change the karakuri that you have in your quick menu, you have to do it at a shop. But if you want to upgrade your karakuri abilities, you do that in a menu. And everything is scattered between shops, menus, hub world, campfires, hunters' gates. It does not feel unified. I feel like this UI system needs a huge once-over. It all works, but it's just idiosyncratic. Again, like trying to find out where things are. I never really remember. I will often forget how to do something, even after 20-plus hours of play. The story and the dialogue are not the strong point here. All of the voice acting is odd and superficial. The dialogue is patchy. The characters are one-dimensional. But that's really not why you're playing the game. I will say that the progression can feel a little off. Like after you've killed a bunch of kemono, you have all these resources, and then you go to the forge to get new armor and weapons, and maybe you find out that even with all of the cool stuff that you've just gotten from all of these powerful enemies, you still don't have enough to do anything, which is a strange feeling. I tend not to plan in games like this, like to go out and specifically hunt down one thing to try and get a single resource from it, and attacking a certain part of an animal to get that resource, which is, I guess, what you have to do. I tend to just play the story, do a load of monster battles just for fun, and then expect it to happen, so maybe that's on me. And there are lots of other little just strangenesses to this game. For example, you find these dragon pits, they are called. These are places in the world where you can build things. You can build a tent, which will allow you to fast travel to that place. You can build a tower that will allow you to scan the area to find kemono, and as you power it up, to find other things too. These are managed in a very strange way. So the more dragon pits that you discover in the world, the stats you have in that area for building will grow. But building tents feels like it should just be allowed anytime. It turns out for most of the game, you can only build 2 tents in an area, unless you uncover every single dragon pit and upgrade them all. There's a whole separate little economy there. Just feels like a little extra to me, like we could have done without that system. Just let people have tents all across the map and fast travel where they want. The game would be better. You could respawn closer to the hunt that you are on and have less of a trek to get back into the hunt again. So I think that is a bit messy. So there are lots of things in this game that are messy. The progression, the economy, the UI, the performance is not good, and yet still I love it. Like, I absolutely love this game, I really do. I've put so many hours into it. Every time I pick up a controller and just do a couple of hunts, it's exciting. It's just, the monsters are cool, the world is cool, the traversal feels amazing. I really do hope that this game is patched up. They released a giant patch for it with like 100 bug fixes just the other day, but none of it addressed performance. It runs exactly as badly as it did at launch. And so you do wonder if this is just how this game is going to be. It would be a shame if that's the case, because it's a really, really good game, and I would love to play the ultimate version of it, if you know what I mean. I would love to play it if it was a solid frame rate and without texture pop, and if all of the boulders all had shadows coming from the sun. That would be really nice. It would just make the game look better, feel better. But even as it stands, I absolutely love it. So that is my glowing review of the beautiful, broken, brilliant, and idiosyncratic Wild Hearts. So I hope you enjoyed that review of Wild Hearts. I really enjoyed that game, and it was fun to talk through it all. There is an awful lot going on in this game. There's a lot of menus, there's a lot of systems, there's a lot of economies. There is just so much going on in it. I hope that somewhat scattered review gave you some idea about the game. If you do want to play it, it's an expensive game. It's a full-price game. It's an EA original, which I think does mean it will be on heavy sale, and probably quite soon. I don't think it's flying off the shelves, although it does seem popular out there. There are a lot of people playing it on Twitter, and despite all of the performance stuff, most of them seem to be enjoying it. However, you can play that demo. I would say skip it on the Series S unless you really, really want to try it and have nowhere else to play it. PS5, it runs brilliantly, but you have that demo to try and to help inform your decision about whether this is the game for you. So if you have enjoyed that, I'd love to hear what you think about Wild Hearts. Are you playing it? Are you enjoying it? Is the performance stuff putting you off or not? Come and talk to me. You can find me on Twitter at Gaming in the Wild, also Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you enjoy watching videos along with hearing me talk, I upload things to YouTube too, so come and give me a sub and a thumbs up there. It's a growing channel, and I appreciate everyone sharing it with a friend. I appreciate everyone who leaves a comment, lets me know what they think about something. I'm always trying to grow the podcast and the channel, so any sharing, reviewing, star rating, letting someone know about it, tweeting out a show, anything like that, retweeting my new show tweets. I really do appreciate all of that, and a special thanks to all of my patrons. I've really enjoyed our chats this last couple of weeks. We've been playing single-sitting games together. We're about to start playing Adios, and so we're going to have a long chat about that one in the single-sitting social channel, and I'll be talking about Adios on a coming episode too. And that includes the big list of games that I've got. Dredge, The Forest Cathedral, Pronti, Storyteller, all coming up in future episodes, so loads to look forward to. Thank you very much for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other, and bye-bye for now.